Hey wife, hey, here I am again in the car, except for this time I'm not driving. I'm actually waiting to go into my counseling session, and I figured I'd just go ahead and do a video while I'm waiting. So today I want to talk about how we're equipping ourselves for the struggle periods of life, marriage, whatever. I grew up in a household where we did not really do counseling. Counseling was like considered to be something that was, I don't know the nice way to say it, but like that was a white people thing, right? And black people, it's just like, you know what, life is going to be hard. You pray, you work it out, you get over it. You don't actually maybe work through it, and it's just life. So to actually process and talk through it was not something that I was raised doing, unless it was like for court purposes, because my parents were divorced and always going back and forth to court to talk about custody and what have you. So for a long time I was super anti-counseling because I was just like, life is tough. I can go in the mirror, and my mom said you can always ask all the questions yourself, and she is correct. You can stand in the mirror, talk to yourself, ask the questions yourself. But something I found that was different is that even though I can go in the mirror and do that, what do I do when the answers stop feeling good? Do I stop asking the questions? Or what happens when I can't hear the things that I'm saying, which could be answering my own questions, but I'm in myself, right? So I can't hear and process, what does that mean? What am I really saying? So after doing my life just my way, trying to figure it out for, I don't know, 7 years, something like that, I was like, you know what? The way I'm doing it is not working, so let me try something else. Definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing again and again and again and expect different results, right? So I was like, I'm not down with just being insane by choice. So I was like, let me go try counseling, and it was one of the toughest, hardest things I've ever done, because it doesn't feel good. And but what can come on the other side is like understanding and awakening of yourself. Like, it totally could be worth it. So I wanted to kind of talk about, like, what does it look like when you're working through things within yourself in regards to equipping yourself for life and for marriage and what have you. Counseling is one way. That's something that I do. I do counseling by myself. I do counseling with my husband, because I really feel that, like, you need to make sure that you're always doing checkpoints and determining where we are and where we're going and what it is that we want to do. And I know in a household where I was raised in, many of people of color, the first time we think about counseling is like as the Hail Mary pass, when everything is going wrong, the last step you do before you walk out or take a divorce or whatever the case may be. But I just look at it more as checkpoints. Like, let's not wait until things are crazy. Like, let's check in and just see if there's expectations that need to be reassessed, changed, judged, whatever the case may be, rewritten. And so I started thinking about this. So I look at it from a maintenance perspective and a check-in perspective. Like, what does that say about my life value and my world value? Well, to me, I value prepping myself before I need something, right? So I study before I have to take a test. I don't wait until the night before. Well, sometimes I get to cram, but that's not like a typical practice. I started doing counseling for myself, by myself, before I became someone's wife, even though I know that I wanted to marry someone till death do us part. I just knew that I needed some things to get right with me before I threw that into something else, because no matter what, when we go into relationships, we bring who we are as individuals to become this oneness with someone else who brings what they bring. It's just all of our baggage and stuff, right? So I like to think of it very much like how we think of faith, right? A lot of times when we're going through something as a believer, like, you take it to the Lord, you fall at his feet, you ask for, what you need and what you're going through, you share, and then you get up and you give your faith and see what happens. But I noticed that in my own life and other people's life, when things are tough and we're going through, we are on our knees every day. We're talking to God several times a day. We're in our word. We're going to church, what have you. And then when things are just kind of copacetic and cool, we might check in. We might do the same hardcore, but we tend to, like, when things are getting a little bit easier, to pull back. No different from our diet. When we're trying to get to a certain place, or a certain look or a certain perspective in our health, like, we're on it hardcore, and then we kind of pull back a little bit when we're like, okay, this is where I need to be now. I can cheat a little bit or what have you. I think about that with marriage, right? So in my perspective with, like, counseling, this is like building muscle, right? Like, I want to go to counseling. I want to check in. I want to talk about our mission and our vision as a unit before things get tough, so that I've built enough muscle in preparation for, like, when things get hard, right? No difference from your faith. You build and you praise God in the positive times, and when things are amazing, just as tough as you would when they weren't, because that's building your muscle to get through the other time. You can't wait till things get hard to all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, where's this faith thing that I have? How do I build? Where are the scriptures? scriptures? Where do I find things? How do I pour into myself when I don't have much to pour into you? I think the same thing about marriage, and that's why counseling matters to me. I think that I need to be building myself, my own muscle. And we talk about it like deposits, right? So in premarital counseling, they said you have to give deposits for the withdrawals to be able to be had, right? So if you think about things in regards to money, like for every withdrawal you make, especially if it's a negative withdrawal in your relationship, you have to have 7 positives to counteract it, right? So when you don't show up and do the things that you said you're going to, when people's feelings are hurt, it takes 7 deposits to counteract that. So when I think about things with our marriage, the same thing as building the character as a person, what we bring to the marriage, right? So I'm feeling like I need to build and make deposits and water our plant and what have you, so that it can grow, so that when we have deposits, we have something we can pull from. Because if you don't have deposits, your withdrawals are pulling 7 to 1, right? And then when you're in the red, what happens when we get in the red and we're making withdrawals and we have no money to even pull from? Now we're getting late fees and we don't have money to cover that. It's not even paycheck to paycheck. It's just a hot mess. I know that's an immense analogy, but that's kind of how I look at it. So when we think about our marriage, like, what are y'all doing to build muscle for when times get hard? For me, it's counseling. For me, it's trying to communicate. But sometimes people feel like, well, there's nothing to talk about. There's always something of me to learn about and for you to learn about before you get to the trials, to have the muscle to push through. I keep saying muscle, but my husband's a trainer, right? And so what he always says is, like, the more muscle you have, the more fat that you burn. So you build muscle so that so you can burn fat. But the good thing about having that muscle is that when he's eating crazy or deciding I'm gonna take a week and just do whatever, your muscle helps to balance that out and you don't put on all the weight. So I'm just thinking about that these days with, like, how do I balance and things that I need to do for myself and time that I need to take for myself and think for myself and process things as I am a part of this unit. Like, how am I building muscle in the periods when things are good or great or copacetic, so that I can be prepared and we have enough deposits to make it through when things are not so great or when stuff gets tough, because life will happen, tough will happen, and we have to be ready. So that's all I got. Let me know in the comments, what are you doing? How do you do check-ins and not wait till you have Hail Mary passes? Do you believe in counseling? Is it something that you do together, by yourself, both? Let me know. It's Wife Shirt Wednesday. I'll be back at it next week. You know I'm always watching.